well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. Glad you're with me on the program today. Coming up, we've got Rick Travis joining us from the California Rifle and Pistol Association. Last time we talked with Rick, it looked like California's budget woes may have kept an anti-gun agenda at bay for this session, but that apparently is not the case because we have seen a permit-to-purchase bill introduced in California. Now, we should also mention that over the weekend, SB 17 in New Mexico, that is the gun and magazine ban, as well as new restrictions on FFLs, that did pass out of the state Senate on a mostly party line vote, 21-17. So SB 17 now moves over to the House side. We talked with Zach Ford from the New Mexico Shooting Sports Association on Thursday. He said that he was hopeful that the bill could be killed either on the floor of the Senate or the floor of the House. I am hopeful as well. I'm not giving up hope yet, but I do hope that New Mexico gun owners are contacting their House members right now, urging them to vote no. Zach told us that there are a few more rural House Democrats and there are rural Senate Democrats who typically have been opposed to measures like this. I don't know that it's going to be enough to kill the bill. I honestly don't. I'm shocked, honestly, because we have seen similar gun ban legislation introduced in New Mexico in recent years, couldn't get across the finish line. This is even worse than what we've seen in previous sessions because not only, again, does it impose a ban on all gas-operated semi-automatic centerfire firearms, but it also includes, again, this, dealer licensing, security mandates. So it's even worse than, the standalone gun and mag ban that we've seen in years past. And yet, for some reason, this is the year that it seems like the gun and magazine ban is moving forward. So pay attention to that if you're in New Mexico. Virginia, we've got more bad bills being heard in the House this week. This afternoon, there is a bill to expand Virginia's red flag law. Tomorrow, we've got legislation in a House committee, including the $500 tax on suppressors. We're going to be talking with Knox Williams from the American Suppressor Association about that on Wednesday, as well as the 11% excise tax on all guns and ammunition. That is in, again, Virginia on the House side of things. But let's talk about what's going on in California and get to our conversation with Rick Travis from the California Rifle and Pistol Association. Rick, thanks so much for joining me on the program. It's good to see you again.
Always good to be here.
So what happened, Rick? The last time we talked, it sounded like this might be a session without too many things for gun owners to worry about. You were talking about the budget woes in California, how that's impacting all kinds of legislation. But now we've got Senate Bill 948, which it's hard to understand how California doesn't already have a permit to purchase law in place, given everything else that's in place. But
right.
They have found a way to screw gun owners once again. What can you tell us about this bill and why it's been introduced?
Yeah, so there's a couple things on this bill that's been interesting. The outcry has been great. I'm very grateful for it. But this is actually what I call a zombie bill. This is not its first introduction. It was here last year as an assembly bill, and we had talked about it. And Senator Arreguin brought it back. The irony is nothing was corrected. He used the exact same bill language that we defeated a year ago. And the reason we were able to defeat it is there's obviously four main issues with it. Number one, it's completely a constitutional infringement per Bruin. There is no such mandate, as you know, Cam, in the historical record of anything like this beast that they're trying to create. Secondly, the firearm safety certificate was supposed to be about making sure people had a general knowledge, not coming from a video game and thinking, I can point a gun at somebody and nothing bad is ever going to happen. It was a basic thing. None of us really cared for the way it was introduced, 20 years ago. But other than being a little bit of a pain in the butt and having to take a test every 5 years, it hasn't been completely ruinous. But there's been an attempt for almost 6 years now to turn the firearm safety certificate into a license. And that's what we've been fighting, because having a license to execute is, a constitutional right is, unconstitutional. This puts a burden because in California, you cannot purchase a firearm without an FFC. So I want you to think about the steps here. There are two people that are going to fall into this. One is for whatever reasons. You're out of state because you're serving the military, business, whatever that might make you move from a land of the free to the somewhat socialist Republic of California. As you're coming in, you have 60 days. Well, it's not like when we were kids and there was that wonderful lady that showed up at your front door, within the first week and said, here's all the things you need to know about the neighborhood and all the new state law. There is none of that these days. So there's no way someone's going to know. And then if you get caught with the firearm and you don't have an FFC, then you're an illegal importer. And one of the things I always point out to people on public policy, Cam, is we develop public policies to solve problems. So I'm sure you've seen the mass news stories of all the problems we've had from people moving into the state of California as a, quote, importer. There's been none of that. Like, there is no reason for this. But what this also does is it adds this 1 hour training component, which is going to cost, depending where you're at, up to $300 to go qualify with a gun. But you can't qualify with the gun unless you have access to a gun or own the gun. So for the importer, being a person that's just moved into the state, yes. But for a new person, we don't live in a state where you can try before you buy. You have to buy before you can try. That's the way California works. So this becomes a challenge that will restrict people from ever being able to buy a firearm effectively, which is how we beat it a year ago. Like I said, there's no public safety justification, and our DOJ gets beat up, and rightfully so. I'm not like saying that, but I know a lot of people that work at DOJ. They're good, honest people. They're gun owners like you and I, Cam, and they're like, we are leaving in the droves because we can't keep up with the crud our legislature has put on us. It's impossible. So this is just going to break the system further, which brings us back to the money issue. Normally, when you and I are talking at this time of the year, we're seeing on close to a dozen to a dozen and a half anti-2A bills. This is the first one. A lot of the others have been able to been dropped because simply talking with people that wanted to introduce them, there's been ideas. But when we went over the budget issue, they're like, yeah, table it. We're not doing it. This is a pretty arrogant move by the senator. It's a pretty inane move because this is not going to be a tough bill to defeat. This is going to be a bill that's going to be very easy for us to lay out how much money this is going to cost the state, how many lawsuits they're going to incur. So it is a concern. We are fighting it. But I'm fairly confident at this point in the game that we're going to be able to stop this bill.
Okay, well, that is good news because, we're dealing with a permit to purchase bill in Virginia.
Yeah.
I don't know that we're going to be able to stop it. Governor Glenn Youngkin left the state with a $2.7 billion surplus. Democrats are intent on spending every dime of it and then raising taxes to generate even more money for the government. So they're not worried about the budget issues any more than they're worried about the state constitution when it comes to redistricting. But as you say, it seems to me like this is precluded by Bruin. And I know that Bruin said, well, shall issue concealed carry licensing is okay. But that was, again, a question about carrying guns in public, right?
Right.
And the Supreme Court pointed to, I think it was surety laws and one other statute that specifically dealt with carrying firearms.
Right.
And we've seen some courts around the country say, well, look, I mean, if shall issue licensing for bearing arms is okay, then shall issue licensing for keeping arms must be okay too. I don't think that's the right answer. I think you've got to look and where are those historical analogs that required you to post a bond before you could keep a gun in your house, right?
Right.
I don't think they're there. So
yeah, they're not.
I think that you're right, that these are different animals. And frankly, I don't like the fact that the Supreme Court blessed shall issue permitting in Bruin. We've seen in California, again, the games that are being played where, you've got to fork over more than $1,000.
Yep.
You've got to wait for a year or more in order to get your permit, even under a shall issue system.
Well, it's even, Cam, it's even disparaging thing. This is something I've been dealing with, and it's actually had a couple of Democrats pause and, they haven't voted for us, but they're no longer voting for their party either. They're just abstaining because they're like, this is a bad thing. And it comes down to not just people of color, but people across the social barrier. There are counties in this state that for right around $250 start to finish, you get your license and you get it in like 90 days or less.
Yeah.
And there's other parts of the state that it's like you said, $1,000 to $2,000 is the high end, and up to 2 years, which means the moment you get it, you better have filed for your renewal because it's going to take 2 years.
Right.
And yet those permits are good throughout the state. So it creates this patchwork and this animosity and this division of the 2A community and the community at large. And it was very, very sad. We had a very good news. We had a Women's Day at the Capitol where, they were going up and fighting and did a great job. We had 14 Democrats actually sit for a half hour or more, which, as you know, in the legislature, getting a legislator to spend more than 5 minutes with you is a miracle.
Yeah.
And great talks. And one of them, I won't out her name on here because I don't want to get beat up by her own party, but she was like, look, I don't own a firearm, but here's pictures of me shooting. I'm very confident in them. I'm confident in them. She goes, but I agree with you, ladies. She goes, I have so many women in my district that are coming and complaining that there's so many barriers to this. And she goes, there shouldn't be barriers. She goes, this is about choice. Wow. Like actually got the message,
Right.
And so she's reaching out, not for this session, for next session, to try to come out with a bill. She says, I want to help you gals and the guy. She looked at me because I was the only guy in the room and said, claw back your God-given rights.
This is a Democrat we're talking
about. Yeah. So there's hope. We had 2 Democrats that went duck hunting with us over the holidays and have completely came out on that side. They're still not where I would love them to be completely on the Second Amendment, but they're not where they used to be either. So there's some migration. I think the tail of the tape is going to be November for California because there are so many things that are coming down on us. Taxes, as you brought up, mileage. I mean, it's a mess. It's a hot mess right now. And I think if enough seats are flipped, this is going to change. But there's already some people that don't like the way things are being done, including on the Democratic side. So, and the other news was Rivas, our head of our assembly. Mm-hmm. He actually came out with the priorities, and we weren't a priority. And we've almost always been a priority, and we weren't a priority. And that was one of the things I used in talking to some of the legislators. I said, this isn't a priority of the speaker. And they're like, that's a good point too. And, so it's interesting. It's a very interesting year.
Yeah, it is. And again, I'm glad that this is the first gun control bill introduced in California, and it's, February that we're talking about now. So hopefully this is the last gun control bill. Hopefully you guys are able to beat it back. We still have, ongoing litigation. Rob Bonta is the California Attorney General, intent on eradicating our Second Amendment rights. And I guess the First Amendment too, right? You saw the lawsuit filed over the dissemination of 3D file digital code, basically, right?
Right.
That is apparently available in the Library of Congress. I don't know if Rob Bonta is going to sue the Library of Congress as well, but
right.
Yeah, going after individuals for disseminating, code. So we've got that, as well as, his defense of California's mag ban. Always keeping you folks at the California Rifle and Pistol Association busy, whether it's the legislature, whether it's the Attorney General's office, Governor Newsom. But I do appreciate you carving out a couple of minutes to talk with us today, Rick. It is always a pleasure, and I'm glad that you feel pretty confident that SB 948 is not going far this session.
Right.
All right. Well, listen. We'll check in again with you very soon. But in the meantime, man, thanks again and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks to Rick for joining us on the program. Looking forward to having him back again here very soon. Right now, let's turn our attention to today's armed citizen story, good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. We'll start there with a case out of Georgia, convicted felon, captured for sexual assaults in Buckhead in College Park in Atlanta. This individual, well known to law enforcement in Georgia over the years. Kwame Shabazz, arrested by Gwinnett County Police on Thursday evening, expedited to the Atlanta Police Department awaiting transfer at the last report to the Fulton County Jail, facing charges of rape, sexual battery, aggravated sexual battery, false imprisonment, burglary, aggravated assault, allegedly forcing his way into a Buckhead apartment complex back on January 22nd as someone was attempting to close the doors. Witness then called the concierge of this apartment complex immediately, but by the time they returned, Shabazz had disappeared. Made his way to a hallway where he saw the victim in this case taking her trash out, then forced his way allegedly into her apartment, sexually assaulted her. The next day, another woman said that Shabazz reportedly exposed himself to her, This is around the corner where the apartment where the sexual assault allegedly took place. And according to Fox 5 in Atlanta, Georgia Department of Corrections showed that Shabazz, previously convicted of attempted murder in 2015, he escaped from the Atlanta Transitional Center in April of 2020 while serving his sentence for that conviction, was arrested on July 1st, 2022, charged with escape and simple battery, and then was released from the Fulton County Jail 2 weeks later. I cannot imagine that 5 years is all he had to serve for attempted murder. I can't imagine that escaping while you're in custody would lead to a slap on the wrist, but that's apparently what happened, because after Shabazz was released in July of 2022, he has been booked into the Fulton County Jail on 7 separate occasions, including one more charge for escape, riot in a penal institution, drug court sanctions, probation violations. Latest arrest occurred on April 29th of last year, including disorderly conduct, probation violation, reckless conduct, riot in a penal institution, simple battery, but was released from the Fulton County Jail in August. So did less than 4 months after being arrested on those charges. The case appears to be open, but in the meantime, Shabazz is still out on the street and allegedly able to commit these violent crimes despite the lengthy criminal history. Today's armed citizen story from Kentucky, where an alleged intruder was shot and killed in a home invasion in the town of Harrodsburg. Mercer County Deputy Coroner Dan Eads identifying the individual as Daniel Hyatt. He apparently was shot by the homeowner during what investigators are calling a home invasion. This was early Friday morning. Police found Hyatt with a gunshot wound when they got there on the scene. They performed life-saving measures, but he was pronounced dead at the scene by the Mercer County Coroner's Office. Police continue to investigate the shooting, but at this point, it looks to be an act of self-defense on the part of the homeowner. And finally today, our good deed of the day, in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. A individual in Florida who was able to save the life of a pregnant woman after she drove her car into a pond in Stuart, Florida. That happened again on Friday. It's been very cold there, so it's not like this is, a balmy 80 degrees. The Martin County Fire Rescue Unit said they responded to the scene, but by the time they got there, a Good Samaritan had already leapt into action. Logan Hayes is his name. He was on his way to work, and he said he just decided to help. He said, I threw my hat off, I ripped my hoodie off, ripped my boots off, took 3 or 4 full stride steps, and just dove in. He was able to yank the car door open, managed to pull the driver from the sinking car, and as he was swimming her back to the shore, he noticed that she was pregnant. By the time he got to dry land, there were other Good Samaritans on the scene, handing her clothing, blankets so she could warm up. Hopefully, Logan Hayes got some of those as well. Paramedics took over, treating the victim at the water's edge before transporting her to a local trauma center with what's described as serious injuries. Logan Hayes says he did follow up with the woman's fiance, who confirmed that the woman had her baby, and the two of them are doing okay. So thankfully, again, if Logan Hayes had not been there and had not decided to take action, who knows what would have happened to that woman and her, at that point, unborn child. So in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing for a couple of strangers in need. Logan Hayes, we thank you for your very, very good deed. Now, that is all the time we've got for you in this edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program as always. I would encourage you to check out bearingarms.com throughout the day-to-day, keeping up to date on all of the latest Second Amendment news and information from all across the nation, the news you need to know about now that the legislative sessions are underway. Keeping our eyes on the courts as well, so do be sure to check it out. If you like what you see, but also encourage you to become a VIP, VIP Gold, VIP Platinum member. No matter what tier of support you choose, you're going to be supporting the independent pro-Second Amendment journalism that we're doing at Bearing Arms, and I certainly do appreciate that. Use the promo code FIGHT when you go to bearingarms.com/subscribe. You get 60% off your VIP, VIP Gold, and VIP Platinum membership. We'll see you back here tomorrow. In the meantime, be well, be safe, and be free.